TunePocket.com. TunePocket.com.
Good day, and welcome to another episode of the Sean Farrell Podcast. I am Sean Farrell. God is great all the time. All the time, God is great. And let's not waste no more time. Let's get right to it. So I spoke a little bit yesterday about Madison Holleran, the college kid who ended up ending her life by suicide. And I went back and read the I'm going to go back and reread the book. And so I was reading the first chapter of the book, which was called Shattered. Okay. And so Madison was with her family, and they had just spent time at TGI Fridays, and she had dropped her iPhone, and the screen broke or cracked, shattered. And so she was going to meet her best friend in college. Her name was Ingrid Hung. She was meeting for the Penn State basketball game, women's Penn State basketball game versus Princeton. Madison ran track, and she was a two-sport athlete in high school, soccer and track. But she went to Penn on a track scholarship. Okay. And so one of her best friends from high school, Jackie Ray Nike, Jackie, I probably butchered that last name, so I'm sorry if I butchered that last name. She played for Princeton. Her best friend Jackie did. And but only a few people actually knew that Madison didn't want to go back to Penn for the second semester. She didn't want to go back. She actually dreaded going back to Penn. There was a feeling that something had shifted inside of her that she couldn't quite name. And that shift changed how she processed the world. What was happening to Madison was what happened when she dropped her iPhone and the screen shattered. Okay. She was breaking inside. Okay. She was breaking inside. And so her father, Jim, who passed away a few years ago due to COVID. Okay. Was driving her back, and they had worked to find a counselor for Madison, okay? And a few days earlier, before Jim was going to drive Madison back, Jim had asked Madison, do you need to go in there alone? And Madison said no, she wanted her dad to come with her, okay? So he sat in the session, and it was very uneasy for him, to say the least. Very uneasy for Madison's dad, because in that counseling session, she actually admitted to having suicidal thoughts. And while they were driving down the interstate, I-95 to be exact, Jim looked at her daughter and said that she looked fragile. Okay. And Jim was actually wondering what exactly was going on with her, that a change of scenery may be what she needed, what Madison needed, because her sister, Ashley, was miserable at Penn State. Okay. And after 2 years at Penn State, her sister transferred to Alabama, and then her sister felt better. Okay. And so that's what Jim was thinking the whole time. Maybe she just needs to change the scenery. And Jim and Madison's dad just noticed that she looked thin, she looked pale. It looked like energy was leaking from her. Whenever she was looking out the window down in the interstate, he kind of felt like she wasn't taking the view in. She was more like looking past it. Okay. Madison actually planned to quit track, wishing someone would see her need to stop, and wishing that he could stop. Okay. And so at one point during the drive back, she turned to her dad and said, "I don't want to go back." And her dad was like, "I know, I understand." Okay. And then her dad offered to keep on driving, to take a visit to North Carolina, or Chapel Hill. That's where Madison's dad went. Same school as MJ, Michael Jordan. And so she couldn't do it because she was having lunch with her best friend from Penn, Ingrid, who was her best friend at Penn. And at one point, her dad said, "How do you feel about transferring? Let's plan a visit to Vanderbilt." Okay. And Madison said, "Yeah, that sounds good," but she was like non-committal on the visit. Non-committal on the visit. And her best friend Ingrid, her sister Nicole, also played basketball for Princeton. Her sister Nicole was injured and was in street clothes, but Jackie, her best friend from high school, was active, and hopefully they would see her get into the game. Hopefully they would see Jackie get into the game. And so Jim, Ingrid, and Madison all found Jackie's parents, and they all sat together. And when Jackie was sitting on the bench, you know, I guess she was halfway focused on the game because she kept, looking up into the stands to see Madison in the stands. And so when Princeton would make a good play, they would notice that, or whenever they turned over to make conversation, she seemed distracted, looking off to the side, and she seemed to be moving around a lot. And Susan, who was Jackie's mom, Susan Ray Nike, probably butchered that again. Susan Ray Nike. If Princeton made a good play, she would turn to Madison and say, "Did you see that good play?" And Madison would be like, "Oh, I wasn't watching. What happened?" Okay. And then her dad, so then Jackie's dad, Kubis, said, "Ask Madison, how are things?" Madison answered, "Good." And then Kubis asked her how track was going. She said, "Not that well. It's tough." And then his response was, "Hang in there." And then Madison responded by saying, "We'll see." Okay. And so Jackie got into the game towards the end of the game, and she made 2 baskets. And Madison was up cheering and clapping the whole time. And Ingrid, Jackie, and Madison took a photo after the game. And so the men's basketball team was up next. They were playing Princeton too. Okay. And so but Jim had to get it back. And so Jim couldn't help but notice how distracted Madison was, how her energy was off, how she wasn't staying focused on anything for too long. And as he was leaving, Jim thought to himself, "That's not a happy kid." Okay. That's not a happy kid. And as Jim was leaving, he noticed that Madison gave him a like a extra squeeze while hugging her dad. That's something that Jim noticed. Okay. And so let me just say, hey this. Living with suicidal thoughts is absolutely terrifying as fuck. Okay. And I'm trying to cut down on my cursing, man. But living with suicidal thoughts every single day is terrifying. Okay. I live with them every day. And I'm at risk every day. Okay. I've attempted before. So I'm at risk every day, but having thoughts of ending your life is terrifying. It is just absolutely terrifying. And it's not an easy thing to deal with. And it's not an easy thing how much energy you have to put into kicking those thoughts aside. Because if you don't have the energy to kick those thoughts aside, they'll overtake you. Okay. So you use every bit of your energy trying to push those thoughts out. And some days you're able to push those thoughts out. Other days you're not able to. So, but despite the fact you're not able to, you survived those thoughts. You survived those thoughts, and survived to see another day. So like I said, living with thoughts of suicide is absolutely terrifying, and that's why I talk about suicide prevention every day. Okay, let's have real conversations. Be the voice. Talk saves lives. Got the 988 suicide prevention lifeline. There's always hope. Okay, and so the Madison Holleran Foundation was started. Okay, and what the Madison Holleran Foundation does is it places an emphasis on preparing high school seniors for the transition to college, which can be challenging. Very challenging to say the least. So it helps high school kids with the transition from high school to college. Obviously, when Maddie made that transition, it wasn't a good transition because something changed when she got to Penn. Something changed when she got to Penn. Okay, and in 2016, New Jersey signed the Madison Holleran Prevention Act that requires New Jersey colleges to provide students with around-the-clock access to mental health services. Okay, so out of her ending her life by suicide, they continue to fight in her name. Continued to fight of suicide prevention in her name. And so I just thought that's something that was pretty cool. The Madison Holleran Foundation, the Madison Holleran Prevention Act, I think that's pretty cool. Okay. All right. That's it. That's all for the Sean Farrell podcast. I am out of here. God bless you all. Peace out. I will see you all on the next one.